Okay, I have some chicken and dumplings. Well, right now it's chicken, no dumplings. Cooking on the wood stove. And I thought about how can you have chicken and dumplings without having buttermilk biscuits? It just kind of goes together. So, wanted to make some buttermilk biscuits, and guess what? I don't have any buttermilk on hand. But that's okay, because what I do have is milk, and I have apple cider vinegar. So I'm going to take my 1 cup of milk and I'm going to add a tablespoon, might need a little bit more, but I'm going to start with just a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and put it in there and turn it into sour milk, basically buttermilk. Then I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of baking soda, which I keep in a little jar because I buy it in the great big bags, and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And then I will add 5 tablespoons of, I can use butter, lard, or whatever you want to use, but it needs to be solid, okay? So you don't want to use like olive oil or anything like that. Okay, so I added 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and you'll see, look, it just got as thick as could be. I might need just a little bit more, because we really want it more, but I mean, you'll be surprised the flavor. Someone told me, I used to use just like lemon or regular vinegar, and then someone told me, no, use the apple cider vinegar. Really makes it awesome. And no, it doesn't taste like apples. You'll also need 1 tablespoon of baking powder. I know that sounds odd, it sounds like a lot, but that's what you need, and 2 cups of flour. When you're making biscuits and you want them to be fluffy buttermilk biscuits, is you don't want the fat to be melted. Like I said, it needs to be solid, it needs to make layers in between, and that is what will help it rise up, because it'll just like expand into all kinds of goodness. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to chop it up, and then I'm going to cut it in with a pastry cutter. Now, you don't have to use a pastry cutter. You can use a fork or whatever and just get it to crumble size. But I like to use a pastry cutter because I just happen to have one. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut off, and I'm actually going to use 4 tablespoons of butter and 1 tablespoon of lard. So for those of you that are not into the lard, that's okay. Just use the 5 tablespoons of butter, or you can use organic vegetable shortening, like a Crisco type. They have the organic ones. So whatever your preference is, it doesn't matter. It'll all come out the same. Part, you kind of need to be quick, because again, you want it to stay cold, and if you need to, put it in the refrigerator for a few minutes and let it get cold again, okay? Because that's the important part. And you'll see my butter gets all stuck on there, and I just clear it off. And when it gets to be about pea size, little balls in there from your butter and fat being crumbled, then it's ready. And look at that beautiful buttermilk that was just made. And I did add just a tiny bit more vinegar to get it to the texture that I wanted it, more buttermilky like. And so, and you'll see there's like little pea size, roughly. Where's that? There it is. It looks big, but it's roughly about a pea size. Added my buttermilk while it's still nice and cold, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick it back in the fridge just for a few minutes. You don't have to do that, but I'm going to before I take it and roll it out to make the biscuits with. And then I'm going to bake them in my cast iron skillet on the wood stove. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get the biscuits flattened out, and I've got the cast iron skillet already on the wood stove, and the lid is already heating on the wood stove, because I like to put the lid on and let them brown up. Okay, so here's my little ball of dough, and it was in the refrigerator for maybe 15 minutes or so. Could have been a little bit longer. You know it is when you start doing stuff, but give or take, it's not really going to make that much difference. You just, again, when you start working with it now, be careful not to overwork it, okay? So, now, I've seen some people take these and kind of roll them out and fold them over again, kind of like this, and then and flatten it out again. And it puts like those flaky biscuit layers in there. But you have to be really careful when you do that, that you don't, warm up your dough. So make sure your hands are cold, your dough is cold, and everything is cold when you do that. And so I kind of put a little pinch when I turn it, or twist in there I should say. Okay. And I'm making these a little thicker than some people might, but I just like big biscuits. So I'm just going to rework these, and we all know that the reworked ones just aren't as pretty, but they still taste just as good. So and the last one I'm not even gonna, I'll just kind of flatten it into a little round. It's going to be kind of funky looking, but that's okay. All right, let's go get these in the skillet. Okay, nice hot skillet, and I put a little fat in there, so I'm going to put the biscuits in and kind of flip them over so they're coated. And as you'll see, the lid is back there, so we'll get it covered. Okay, so the biscuits are in and I flipped them over, and now we're going to take our lid lifter and we're going to put the lid on. And you'll see there's still ashes on there. This is the one I basically just leave the ashes on because, well, I use it a lot in that manner, so we'll just cover them up. Should take about 15 minutes. We'll give it 10-15 minutes and check it and see how they're doing. Need to make sure my lid is on there straight so it's not sitting on my biscuits. Yep, it sure is. Okay, nice fire going. Chicken and dumplings, let's check those. Oh yeah, they're looking mighty fine. Okay, and you see they are absolutely, you can actually see the butter kind of oozing out of them while they're rising, and they did a beautiful job rising. I mean, these biscuits, that's a recipe I'm telling you you want to try. Now, sometimes I will go ahead and just put coals on the top, brown it. I'm messing up my biscuits here. Or you can just flip them over. Your choice. I started flipping them over, so I guess I'll stick with what I was doing now. But sometimes, like I said, I'll put coals on it, and it just makes it a little easier and less messy, and doesn't mess up my little rising biscuits. But they just are awesome. And it's kind of a no-fail recipe. It's nothing special. I mean, that I do as a cook or anything, but it's just a recipe. It's just an awesome recipe. I actually got it from one of the bakers my first year in baking school. So that, but you don't have to have any schooling. Everybody knows that it's all from the heart when you cook it. That's what makes it taste good. That's what makes it better. Look how high and fluffy that biscuit got. Is that awesome or what? Alright, so I'm going to give it just a few more minutes on this side. And done. Alright, so chicken and dumplings are ready to go, and the biscuits are ready to go. They'll be ready in about, like I said, just a few minutes. They just need to brown. Layers of flaky goodness.